Last time we were discussing the fate of the Mullahs.
That's right.
Shall we continue with this? Or
yes, although it's not a very pleasant subject. Personally, I don't like to discuss it because it's not just feeling pleasure over somebody's misery. It's a very painful subject. But in relation to the victory of God, victory over them, it is important as well. So this is why Allah Ta'ala in the Holy Quran has used certain words to indicate that don't bother, don't worry. We know how to conduct. Yawma yafrahul mu'minun, So there are some victories of the godly people over which you exult. And that is not a personal aggrandizement or a personal sense of, this takabbur or arrogance. It's only for the sake of Allah. That is why we have to say these things. Otherwise, there is no pleasure. I feel for them, really. It hurts me sometimes for them to be so exposed by Allah, suddenly brought naked in the open. While previously, under the jubba, they were so big people and everything. So, just for the sake of people, as to they should learn what this Mubahila resulted into, whose side God was on. So with this apology, I must retake the subject, please. Now, I have taken two examples to quote today of two mullahs of Europe, in Europe, who belong to the brand of Chishtis. The Chishti brand of mullahs were outspoken and most vocal in antagonizing, in abusing Ahmadiyyat, and they have always been antagonistic to Ahmadiyyat prominently, outstandingly. They are Chishtis. I have taken one example from Norway and one from England. There is one Chishti by the name of Mushtaq Ahmad Chishti, who once flew very high. During the days of Mubahila, he was almost the lord of the whole universe, the way he was lifted by by all his followers and so on. And he used to brag that I am the follower of a Pir in Rawalpindi, when he went into Mubahila with Masih Maud Islam, according to him, Masih Maud Islam presented a challenge that although I am not educated at any Arab university or even in a school, proper school, and I was taught Arabic by a small, ordinary Maulvi of the villages, yet God has granted me this very special power, not only to write excellent Arabic, but write excellent Arabic in relation to the tafsir of Quran, commentary of the Quran. So the ijaz is not just my knowledge of Arabic. It is to comment upon the Holy Quran in a manner that no one else had ever done before, and fluently, without any preparation. So he threw a challenge to the mullahs of the period that, all right, if you think you are dearer to God and you know the Quran better because you are min al-mutahharin, so come on, let's have a contest. You are educated in very huge jamias and you have got big degrees. I have none. So let us come into contest, and what we will do is choose any portion of the Quran, and I'll write the tafsir of the Quran there and then, and you also write the tafsir Quran, and we'll see what happens. So this mullah particularly, Mir Ali Shah, Golodvi, he was a big name in the whole area, very big Pir. So he first of all quietly sent messages to Hadhrat Khalifatul Masih IV, the first caliph. He was not a caliph at that time. Showing his deep respect for Hadhrat Mirza Islam and for everything, and to be on the right side, not to be counted among those who should be who are the antagonists of Ahmadiyya. Now, when it came to be known that private correspondence and his support of the Ahmadiyya cause in general, he felt very embarrassed. So he turned turtle and openly started abusing his Muslim Islam and throwing challenges to him. So when this challenge was thrown at him, he tried to wriggle out to begin with. It's a long story, but to cut it short, to come to the person, Chishti, I tell you one very interesting thing. Hadhrat Mirza Islam wrote a book, Ijazul Masih. It is during this period, in Arabic. And he said, all right, you write anything and take help from anybody. Take your time. And write something like this, which is, in fact, a great commentary of the Holy Quran, in portions, of course. It's a long story I have published in response to this Mullahs bragging. I dictated, and also some ulama wrote some portions of one pamphlet, not a booklet, but not a pamphlet, on all about his peer of Golra Sharif, how it all started, the written published proof of what happened, and what they are bragging about nowadays. I proved that it is absolutely false. Now you can imagine the quality of their mental standard and their mental scope, the sort of people they are. He, responding to some of my challenges, he said to his followers, ask Ahmadis, if ever it happened that Mirza Sahib's pen, at his bidding, started writing without it being held in his hand, Ahmadis there said, no, it never happened. So this is the greatness of my Peer Golra Sharif. The response he made and the answer, the book which he wrote in response to Mr. challenge was not written by him himself, nor by anybody else of his followers. He ordered it, and the pen stood up and started writing. This is the quality and the reach of their faculties. The maximum they can fly is in this region of spiritual greatness. But he became over, over daring in disrespect to Muslim Islam. He started crossing all limits. So when Mubahila came, he got caught ultimately. He said, I accept the Mubahila, where is Mirza Tahir Ahmad, and we'll see what happens. So that is how they were ensnared by Allah, Makaru wa makar Allah. This is the story of what happened to him after Mubahila. Right?
Yes. Which one of them who ordered the pen?
This is the one. His peer.
Yes.
Golra Sharif.
Yes. May I explain?
Please forgive me. I want to tell him that remind me to get a copy of that book somehow from Pindi, from libraries. If we can, we'll republish it at our cost. Together with Hadhrat Masih. He didn't claim him for himself.
Yes.
He said, my peer.
He mentioned this one.
This one, yes.
But this one didn't say that.
I didn't.
Okay.
He didn't say that. He bragged about it. What was Mirza Sahib and what are you, these people? Did Mirza Sahib ever perform a miracle like this?
Yeah.
So his followers actually believed in this man. Imagine, the mental status of the followers and the leaders alike.
No. Yes.
What he did was a plain sheet of paper. He said, this is how he wrote the book. Come on, start writing. It got up. Start writing. This is Ijaz. What is Ijazul Masih? Nothing. This is Ijaz, he said. So then came Mubahila, the time for Mubahila, you know. And then he started bragging that he's run away. I have accepted. We'll see what happens. And here I am going to tell you what happened to him. First of all, introduction. Mushtaq Ahmad Chishti, Khatib-e-Millat and Allama, they were his titles. And the book he has written is called Fatih-e-Qadian, the one who has conquered Qadian. Sitting in his room, you know, he's conquered everything. He's conquered the whole world. In 1982, he went to Norway. Previously, these Chishtis were from London mostly. They had gathered here. But they fought with each other as well, or with other mullahs, for the occupation of a mosque and for monopolizing a mosque, because they generated a lot of income, you know, every mosque there. So that is their profession. They go and first enter the mosque and then gradually push out the other mullah and have a good fight and capture it finally. So, having been driven from London, the other Imam won, you know, he pushed him out. He went to Norway in 1982. There he captured a mosque and he opened a school along with it, and then he rose to big fame in the whole of Norway, and he rose as the greatest Maulvi of all the Muslims in Norway. That was at one time. In 1988, you remember, when I issued the Mubahila challenge, again, interestingly, he got caught in his own snare like the other Maulvi, Mahmud, which I had mentioned earlier. First of all, his acceptance was published in Millat, London, 24-25 December 1988. But he wanted to say that in reality it is not his challenge which I am accepting. I had issued a challenge in Mubahila to him earlier. Nobody knows when he did it, but that is what he said. And this was published in September in Mahanama, the monthly Tarjuman-e-Islam. That is their magazine. In that magazine in Norway, in September-October issue, he wrote, we had already issued a challenge of Mubahila to Mirza Tahir Ahmad, but that Qadiani fled away and didn't accept the challenge. So, if I had fled away, why had I thrown the challenge myself to the whole world? How stupid it was. But this was a proof that he was in Mubahila.
Even before Hudur.
Then he became even, more daring and blatant in his claims. He said, now we are accepting the Mubahila fourth time. Nobody should be left in any doubt. The fourth time that we have accepted this Mubahila. He had collected money as a mosque fund. And in the year of Mubahila, the next year, on the 13th of February, 1989, 80% of all his collections he gave to his own son and transferred the account into his name. There was a mosque fund operated by him. So like Manzur Chinioti, Manzur Chinioti, they all do like this. He transferred the amount in the name of his own son, and this was the money not given just for the sake of fund voluntarily, But the government of Norway, like in many other European governments, had a stipend for the children, which they gave to all children, for religious education as well. So the entire stipend of Norway Muslim children was collected by him in the name that I am going to open a madrasa and this and that. So this is the best usage of this money. The government is paying you for this. All right, give it to me and I'll take care of it. Don't worry. And they didn't worry until they suddenly learned that this man had usurped that fund and transferred 80% by that time to his own son. After all, he was a child as well. Then he got some signatures on a sort of writing. What legal authority it had, we don't know, but he had something written on a paper and got signatures of some of his closest followers, very close to him, who wrote on behalf of the whole Muslims, that whatever fund is collected in the name of the mosque, 2/3 of that will be for Jamaat Ahl Sunnat and 1/3 would go towards the Jamia Islamiyya. But you will be the final judge for all this. Maulana Chishti, we trust you fully. You can do whatever you like. So 2 trustees' funds were opened in the bank on the basis of this writing. You know, to whomsoever it's concerned, that sort of thing. That writing was in fact used for opening a bank account. So 2 bank accounts were opened, Sunni Trust and Jamia Islamiyya. But he was the sole operator of these trusts. That is how he, played the trick. This fraud was caught, and there was a hue and cry raised by the Muslims all over Norway, who were previously his staunch followers. Then he made public statements that all those Norwegian Muslims who are opposing me and propagating against me, they belong to the Jewish lobby. They all belong to the Jewish lobby. And then he said, this must have a hand of Ahmadis behind it. He tried to wriggle out of this by drawing the attention to Jewish lobby and Ahmadis, but nobody was duped this time. Then on Radio Norway Urdu Service, there were 4 installments entirely dedicated to his frauds, deceits, bad character and everything. And it was announced, broadcast from Radio Norway in 4 installments. What sort of mullah that is? You see? Whatever doubt was left about his honesty, integrity, was totally torn to shreds. The amount which he had misappropriated. Payam-e-Mashriq is a newspaper from Norway which wrote on its 8th volume, number 12, on page 8. He said, "O Maulana, whom are you deceiving by calling us a Jewish lobby? You're only interested in your own ulterior motives and nothing else. 1/3 of the entire funds which were dedicated for the mosque you have misappropriated and which amount to 1 crore rupees, 10 million rupees, that you have got it, eaten it up. And you have also appealed for 10 million more by telling people that, look here, give me money 10 million with this hand and take the Jannat away with that hand. That is what you have been doing. Is that the way for these poor people to earn the Jannah, that you run away with that money and give it an empty hand and say, take the Jannah away, you know? This paper wrote all this. He said, we know what sort of people they are. This newspaper wrote, we know these Muslims, drunkards and fornicators and things. Everybody knows what sort of people. He said, how can we believe it is possible for any mullah to get money and give a certificate of Jannah to these people as we know they are? They're all materialistic people, hardly any among them would be a true Muslim. Is it not all? But we know the people, the sort of people they are. He said, this is exactly how the Christians built their churches or the Hindus built their temples, and the same story is being repeated by you, which has been done, the frauds which were played in the name of God by other people, so you are repeating the same thing. People became so fed up with this man that during Ramadan, twice during the Namaz Jummah, they stood up and insulted him and abused him. The one, you know, he had opened his tongue against Messiah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. This is how he himself was ultimately treated. Eid al-Fitr was again disturbed by the rioters against him. And ultimately, no, he couldn't complete the Eid al-Fitr, it had to be broken halfway. And then ultimately, like Manzur Chinioti was treated, so the Muslim newspapers of Norway started giving him new titles. And the titles we have collected are from Mahanama Bazgasht, the monthly Bazgasht, August 1990, you know. This is an ongoing process, you know. It went on and ripened into this ultimate position. They say, in short, we can introduce this mullah. The one who was introduced as the mullah of the whole millah and this and that. Now he has been reduced to this. Hera pheri karne wala. You know, a cheap trickster. Like people, you know, come and go, take this, let's change this money and then run away with this. These public frauds. Hera-pheri is cheap tricksters. Member-e-Rasool ka galat istemal karne wala. From the pulpit of the Holy Prophet, he has been misusing or abusing the pulpit of the Holy Prophet. So the one who does it, this is he. The one who violates the sanctity of the mosques is this Maulvi. The one who is greedy is this Maulvi. The one who has established his family, the entire family, in Norway at the cost of the Muslims, this Maulvi. The one who kept on demanding for this and that amenities for the sake of, in the name of Islam. You have accepted me as mullah, so give me this and give me that. That is this Maulvi. He is the one who has no control over anything. He keeps on making small organizations in his own name and makes them a source of his income. A liar who makes promises and breaks promises. he started many schemes, but left them all halfway, and whatever money he collected in those schemes, he got misappropriated. He said it has come to a light that in the meantime he has become a property owner. He has a good flat in his own name, but without telling anybody, he kept this a secret and rented it out to others and occupied the mosque flat freely. He said all the money he gathered in the name of Allah and in the name of the Holy Prophet, he has misappropriated and eaten it up. Another newspaper, Mahnama Qaid Oslo, wrote on 8th of August 1990, Maulvi Sawab ke naam par sab kuch karta raha hai. This Maulvi in the name of Sawab, winning Allah's place, he does everything. Shouldn't count whatever he does. His hand is always in the pockets of others. He promises a seat in Jannah to everybody if you give him some money. And then he wrote a couplet in his praise. Sare member rasme gadai hai hunar iska. What sort of poem? Sare member गलत को लिखा हुआ वजन शेर नहीं है. रस्म गदाई है हुनर उसका, वो है रक्कासे मजहब, पाँव में सोने की पायल है. अगरचे रोलता फिरता है वो तस्बीह के दाने, मगर दर पर्दा वो जर की हवस गाहों का साहिल है. The first line, is deficient, missing something, but in short it is that from the pulpit he plays his role as a beggar. There is no other purpose of the pulpit but to beg. And he is a dancer in whose, on whose ankles, क्या कहते हैं उसको जो पायल को, golden bangle like thing, around it, And
making,
although
making sounds, these things.
This yes. It's a golden,
yes.
Something which is ten, he does this. I don't know the technical name in English for that, but you understand what
in Arabic, khulkhat.
Khulkhat, that's right.
Yes.
That's right. So, although he does this with the tasbih, with his hand, he goes on rolling the beads of the tasbih. But in deep inside, he has eye only for money, nothing else. Then Pyam-e Mashriq on 8th of August 1990 said, this mullah should be entitled Maulvi 420. The 420 is the act under which charges are pressed against one for fraud and deceit and all these things. This is called 420. This is a very well-known figure in the whole of India and Pakistan. So he said, from now on we should entitle this mullah as Maulvi 420. Then it relates all the fraud and things. For instance, he said this was this mullah, when he was responsible for the creation of disorder in the mosque in Norway, that the police had to rush in with their shoes on and destroy and violate the sanctity of the mosque. But this man is responsible for all this. Then the news item appeared in March 1991 that this mullah has been deprived of all his ranks, all his responsibilities. He has nothing to do from now on with anything relating to Muslims and Islam. This man has got rid of. He's got rid of. And Alhamdulillah, thumma Alhamdulillah. And people started saying nawafil in thanks to Allah. They had lost, God got us rid of this man. Nobody lets him near him. He was beaten out of the mosque when he tried to enter it. He said, look here, you have nothing to do, you haven't read the statement. And now, nobody knows his address, where he's gone, he's disappeared. This is Mubahila. What stronger proof do you want from? This is how Allah destroys people, smashes them. Excuse me, I corrected it.
Yes.
About the masjid, things will come later.
Yes.
This was the fund which government had donated towards children.
Yes.
Stipends.
Okay, yes.
So this is what he misappropriated. 80% of this he gave to his own child.
Okay.
Of the whole children in Norway, all the collection.
He's one of the children.
Yes, that's right. And the mosque fund will be mentioned later on.
Yes. Okay.
The government gave it to the children, and he got them from the children.
Back?
Back for the children. All right, but what purpose you have got for this? You can't spend it rightly. Give it to me, I'll do it. The question is, why these things begin to happen to these mullahs after the Mubahila? They have lived a long life, like prophets have lived long lives before the people. فَقَدْ لَبِثْتُ فِيكُمْ عُمُرًا مِّن قَبْلِي أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. So they have also led a long life. They are protected by the ordinary kindness of Allah. They were not exposed, because Allah is so kind on His people. Why suddenly they became naked? After the Mubahila. If you have eyes, you have sight, then you can draw your conclusion from that. Why suddenly it started happening to all of them after Mubahila, not before that? There's another Chishti, Ghulam Chishti, who was here in London, who used to mock at my Mubahila challenge and make people laugh at what's this sort of stupid Mubahila, So I can't say accepted in so many words, but he, of course, sort of dared God. This Mubahila, we don't care for this. Meaningless. And went on opposing Jamaat Ahmadiyya on every front. So, before this, he had lived here a long life. He was a most highly respected mullah. He was not only a Maulvi, but also a peer in himself. People thought he is a man of great spiritual powers and he can grant children to people and do this and that. His name was Ghulam Chishti. His title was Pir-e-Tariqat, Allama Abul Fatah Chishti. Right. 46 years old he was when this Mubahila ultimately got over him. He was arrested for the charges of violating the chastity of an underage girl and forcing it. Rape, was a charge. And during that course, other claimants came and it started piling up this complaint against him, that he had raped that woman and that woman, those who went to him for seeking Allah's blessing, He raped them and told them they would be, meet a, sort of wrath of Allah or this and that if they spoke a single word, or this will happen to them. This was his custom. Charges were pressed against him in the court. When the judge inquired from him, who were they? You are a mullah. Who were these people? He said, they were my married wives. How come it? Therefore you have no marriage record. I am the one, the authority on marriages myself. I declare that to be marriage and then that was enough. It's a disgrace to read his defense of himself because it is disgrace to Islam. And the judges and the lawyers and all the public were laughing at Islam and the sort of mullahs they have. Then, at last, this was declared, the judgment was declared. And the judge wrote a very, very stiff judgment. He said, such people must be treated as harshly as possible. He has abused everything. So he said, I commit him to 11 years rigorous imprisonment, and also I issue this judgment. I mean, this is a part of the judgment. At the moment he turns out of jail, he must be sent back to Pakistan, because such as he are not fit to live in England. As if that was not enough. Later on, to draw attention to his pity of the state and to confess what was happening to him, he himself published made a public statement and written on posters. They were labeled everywhere. This in fact was another way of attracting public attention out of pity, so that somebody would send him some money. See, he opened an account in some bank and said, whoever has pity, that is the account number. This man, after all this,
when was this?
This was a brazen-faced mullah. Huh?
This
was in
no, the imprisonment.
Imprisonment?
The judgment.
In 19 February 90. After all this, it was going on for some months. Finally, the judgment was delivered on the 19th of February 90. He was under custody and all this was going on for quite some months, but immediately after the Mubahila, the next year, it all started. Yes. Then comes the confession. He said, I have been shoved into the hell of the jail for 11 years. My old parents, what they say, tadap kar reh gaye. What is the expression in English for that? They just tossed in agony, could do nothing about it. Kept tossing in agony. This is called tadap kar reh gaye. And my children from other wives have nobody to take care of them. My elder son died suddenly, leaving behind a widow and 4 children, because there was no money available for his operation. Things which I have seen, may Allah it never happen to the worst enemies of anybody. This is the end I have come to. And this is the picture of the Maulana, flashed in the newspapers. The English press, the media, television, they all played it up because they thought all these blemishes will be attributed to Islam and Islamic mullahs. So this is why I said I don't like speaking on these things. The Mail on Sunday, February 25, 1990, rape case priest, that is the title given to him. The rape case priest.
He is a priest.
Huh? Yes. So all this rubbish we leave. I wouldn't have opened my mouth on this, but unfortunately, this is one of my duties, to remind people that this Mubahila was from Allah and He took charge of it. And I have so many other cases in short brief, but I think that's enough for the time being.